TV News live at 6, your campus news leader.
Protests have been going on all day in response to the racist graffiti at Day Hall. Good evening, I'm Jenna Bree.
And I'm McElrath. Students have been sitting in at the Barnes Center, and they don't plan on leaving anytime soon. CitrusTV reporter Ricky Sayer is in the Barnes Center right now. Ricky, how long are students going to be there?
Yeah, they'll be here until 1 a.m. And as you can probably hear, this protest, this Q&A specifically between protesters and administrators continues. The level of this emotion in this room right now is extremely high. Students reaching their breaking point. You can see students crying. It's honestly reminiscent of the Theta Tau protests of 3 years ago, and that's kind of the point. It all goes back to the name of this protest, Not Again SU. In the university's newest building comes campus's latest protest in what comes in the fallout of another racially charged incident on campus.
We don't want to have to be here, so hopefully because we're doing it now, this can be the last time.
Students arriving around 10 to the Barnes Center, getting the word out on social media.
Eli, come to Barnes. We're here today. I got signs, yeah, the signs.
They want change from this university in the wake of racist graffiti found in Day Hall. Chief Diversity Officer Heath Alford in attendance at one point, sitting down to talk with the protesters. Dean of Students Marianne Thompson also talking to students, telling them that this event is thoughtful and incredible.
And we wanted to create space in order to give students a platform to speak up in a way that is productive and conducive to change.
For protesters, this is about more than how the university handled this specific incident. It's about a culture on campus where marginalized communities feel unsafe.
Things like this happen, racial slurs are being written on walls, and people are, pistol whipping people at parties and yelling racial slurs at them. It really makes us feel like we don't belong.
Throughout the day, protesters still studying with finals approaching, students doing their work while demanding change. Similar to the tension rising on this campus, starting with Theta Tau, which was 2 years ago, the tension in this room has risen all day, from when students got here to when the chancellor arrived to now, this Q&A. It really has been an incredible day to be in here. After the chancellor arrived, we saw that administrators went into a back room, and then they came out, and that's where we are right now. Reporting in the Barnes Center, Ricky Sayer, CitrusTV News.
Thanks, Ricky. The demands you mentioned students are making have been outlined. Here are some of them. They want the university to expel any students involved in the Day Hall graffiti incident and mandate diversity training in all new faculty and staff contracts.
The students are also demanding the university revise the anti-harassment policy to include a zero-tolerance policy for all hate speech. Plus, they want SU to offer a same-race option for roommate selection on student housing applications. The chancellor said his team is working on these demands.
So I will read them, and I take it the whole team will respond to them as promptly as possible.
After leaving the sit-in, Siverud sent another email saying the demands were, quote, thoughtful and constructive. He also said he's requested immediate changes to the university's policy on handling bias incidents and will look into updating the student code of conduct. As Ricky mentioned earlier, other administration members held a Q&A with protesters this afternoon. Chief Diversity Officer said the university will try to consider all students' perspectives and experiences when they update policies in the coming weeks. But despite these responses from the university, more than 700 people have signed a petition calling for Siverud's resignation. Last night at a Residence Hall Association meeting, students demanded changes to the administration, specifically with how they address issues impacting minority students on campus. CitrusTV reporter Conor Wight tells us why students are frustrated with problems of the past that haven't seemed to change.
Last night, students came to the HBC Gifford Auditorium to voice their frustration with the university.
You gotta make an example of somebody, because if you make an example of somebody, they gonna get scared. They don't care, they only care when it's money involved. If it's not money involved, they don't care.
Many students demanded action from SU to overhaul the curriculum to teach students about respecting and understanding racial diversity.
Try to explain that we should have a course that's 4 credits, because 4 credits really affects our GPAs, and maybe the course a little more serious, pages, papers, midterms, basically because I'm sick of being a student of color, black student, and having to teach people what they should already know.
SU created SEM 100 with that goal in mind, but a year later, Vice President for the Student Experience, Robert Radsky, said it's fallen short. Students call it a failure.
There was also an opinion that SEM 100 should be scratched properly.
It should.
It's not 4 credits, it's 1.
SEM 100 is garbage.
Students also expressed issues with DPS to Chief Bobby Maldonado. They want faster campus updates on racially charged incidents like the graffiti in Day Hall.
For protocol about racial incidents, the main thing that was brought up was lack of communication. So sending out, like DPS sends out currently about crimes, a preliminary email that says there's an ongoing investigation.
Though some students said they were pleased with having the opportunity to speak at the forum, they don't believe this administration will provide an adequate response.
We feel like they heard us, but we don't know for sure if they're going to make changes, so we want to hold them accountable.
They want a total personnel change here at SU.
The problem is not really the situation as much as it is how much they try to keep it under wraps. The policy behind what happens is the problem.
Including in the office of the Chancellor.
We are requesting that Kent gets resigned because we do not feel like he upholds the university's policy of diversity and inclusion.
For CitrusTV News, I'm Conor Wight.
And new at 6 tonight, faculty and staff also attended last night's event. But some who were unable to attend spoke out today. Newhouse professor Tula Guenca says this incident contradicts some of the chancellor's recent moves.
They were told to not tell anybody about it. They were told not to put it on social media. So on one hand, the chancellor has set up this work group to study free speech on campus, right? But on the other hand, his own administration leadership team is suppressing the free speech of students who have been targeted. So what the hell is going on? I mean, I am beside myself with all this. This is not the university that I know and love. For the last 5 years, a lot of different crises have happened on campus under the current administration, and it is always dealt in the same way. First, there's denial. There's no word put out. As soon as the student media, thank God you all exist, start covering it, then some vague email will go out, and then the chancellor will say, "Oh, I'm sorry," and then he'll blame his leadership team. But he is the leadership team. The buck stops with him.
Like Professor Guenca, the Student Association at SU also expressed its outrage in an email sent this morning about the racist graffiti in Day Hall last week. The email says SA stands with the minority students who feel targeted by the incident and lays out an agenda for changes they would like to see. SA expressed clear and direct anger toward the university and its way of handling the situation. SA calls for more diversity training at SU and a new DPS policy for hate speech on campus. The email closes with the viral hashtag, #NotAgainSU, and asks students to reach out if they have any questions.
Other organizations are also standing with minority students. Syracuse's student sports fan group Otto's Army is getting involved too. The group announced it will not attend Syracuse's basketball game tonight against Colgate. The group tweeted their decision earlier this afternoon. They're encouraging all students to join them in light of recent events using the hashtag #UnpackTheDome. Syracuse's Pan-Hellenic Council also canceled their sorority recruitment expo. They are encouraging all planning to attend to instead stand in solidarity with the protesters.
Meanwhile, the Department of Public Safety continues its investigation into the graffiti and vandalism that began all of this. According to the DPS crime log, there are 2 active investigations into, quote, criminal mischief.
CitrusTV reached out to the Syracuse Police Department and the New York State Police's Hate Crimes Task Force. Both say they have offered resources, but DPS remains the lead investigator. Earlier this week, DPS Chief Bobby Maldonado says he welcomes both departments' support. CitrusTV News will have continuing coverage of the Day Hall incident on all of our newscasts and across our social media platforms.